Good morning and welcome to the Raben Report. I'm your host, Elliot Raben, so get ready to get triggered. Good morning and welcome to the Raben Report's Season 5 finale. I'm your host, Elliot Raben, as you might have heard in our intro, and with me for the last time ever is my expert panel, all three of them, Marshall, Adam, and Daniel. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Sad.
But yes,
Sad.
also it's very
It's a somber
very
day.
melancholy morning.
We are going to obviously save, the departure for the end of the show, so you got to stay tuned to hear.
Elliot, are you propping up some clickbait here? Trying to get people to stay till the end?
I mean, based on the fact that we've had a clickbait episode, I think...
You have to stay until the end or else you'll never see Adam again.
Yeah, that's it.
Exactly.
I'm going to disappear.
Yeah, we actually brought in a magician. He's in the other room. But it's gonna be a very spicy episode too, because it's a very very divisive topic.
It's good to end off with some spice.
Especially, yeah. So, to begin, as per Spirit Live rules and regulations, all opinions expressed are not those of Ryerson or Ryerson faculty and are only those of the individual commentators. Viewer discretion is advised. So, let's start with our recap of the week. There was a halted car ramming in Los Angeles.
I didn't even...
This happened, I think, either yesterday or the day before. Somebody tried to, surprise, surprise, ram Orthodox Jews as they were leaving synagogue. The culprit's name was Mohammed.
And it didn't work.
Thoughts? No.
What happened? What prevented it?
I think the cops stopped it before he got a chance. I don't know
So
the
did he
specific. He
get
didn't
in
get
the-
them. No.
No, he didn't.
It was halted.
Call, watching him drive recklessly or something.
Probably.
That's great to hear that they stopped it. It's terrible to hear that the attempt was made, but yeah, I mean we can take the positives out of it. That nobody was harmed. Nobody was harmed.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know what? That's
very good to
as terrible as the news is from from what the implications of it are. I think it is always important to look at the positives and to take the fact that. We are able to stop these things, that we do have the power to take the action to stop these things from happening. What's more important, of course, is stopping them before the attempt begins. And, that can be done in any number of ways. Is it a societal change that needs to happen? Is it security changes that need to happen? Probably a bit of both, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, of course, terrible news, but... we can be happy that nobody was harmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not really much else to say. Just there's always the idea of having preventable measures. Thank you. Appreciate that. The idea of having preventable measures and just like we do have the power to stop these travesties from happening in the first place. It's nice to have a good reporting news, like something with happier news that isn't always like dark and gloomy. You know?
I think when something like this is stopped before it happens, it really,
Doesn't
at least
make
for
as
me,
much coverage,
inspires
though.
my confidence that we do have, competent, or I mean, this is in the States, so I would imagine the same practices are put in place here, that we do have competent people in charge of preventing these things from happening, and that going forward we'll have more and more methods to prevent these things from happening.
We just got to thank their respective police, like law authority institutions, to do their job, because that's what they're paid for.
Yeah.
And it's sad that we have to be developing these methods to ensure that these things don't end in
necessary
tragedy,
evil.
but it is
We got into this whole thing in our last special where it was like, why am I not hearing about these attacks? And here again, I didn't hear anything about this. So Yeah, it's a problem, but a smaller problem in terms of should anything have happened, but nothing happened. So I think that we got off lucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a society.
Did you already have any other breaking news or something?
Just the fact that you raised me a bit too high.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, same here.
My bad.
So,
I'm excited.
Yeah, a little too high. But Andrew Scheer and Kevin O'Leary were here yesterday. I know that was something big in the news that's more related to Marshall. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so the Ryerson Campus Conservatives, of which I am an exec, we had Andrew Scheer come by and Kevin O'Leary, and MPP for Barrie Springwater, Oro-Medonte, Alex Nuttall. He came and moderated the discussion. And so what it was, you know, Scheer, the leader of Her Majesty's Royal Opposition, and Kevin O'Leary, who's a businessman, an entrepreneur from Shark Tank, from Dragon's Den. I prefer Dragon's Den
before Shark Tank.
Yes,
always.
Yes, of course. Dragon's Den is the superior program. And you know, they came and talked about the issues that we're facing Canadians, especially young Canadians, especially Canadians who are entering the workforce in the next couple of years. It was funny. O'Leary had this kind of shtick that he did where after everything Scheer said, he'd go, you know what? If anybody in a business did what Trudeau or Morneau or Freeland are doing, they'd be fired. They wouldn't get a second chance. They'd be fired, and we'd hire somebody else. And who do we have to hire? Andrew Scheer. And you know, I thought that was really funny. And overall, the event went really well. We sold, well, we weren't selling tickets. The tickets were free, but we registered like 375 people.
Wow. That is really good.
We found out later on that the capacity of the room is actually 200. So it's 500 actually if there's no chairs in the room.
Oh, okay. Like 500 standing people.
Yeah, but we had chairs in the room. So what we did is we had a live stream set up, and lots of people watched the live stream. I think like 1,500 likes on the live stream after Scheer shared it.
It's pretty good.
And yeah, went very well. Lots of insightful questions. There was a long question and answer period, which I always appreciate. It wasn't. I think there was more Q&A time than actual just Scheer and O'Leary talking time. And I think the only thing that I would have seen happen differently is the fact that there was a lack of hard questions. There was 2 hard questions. One guy asked about what, you know, he said that, Scheer, you're not leading in the polls here. What are you going to do when you lose this election?
Hot take.
You know what? I actually really would have liked to see a better answer, but I know he's in a tough place where Scheer can't necessarily say what's going to happen if the Conservatives lose the election, because that would be a big blow to the confidence of the supporters if he admitted that it was a possibility. Yeah. So he gave the best answer he could, saying, you know what, we're not going to lose, and here's why. And then somebody else asked about environmental policy, and I actually didn't mind Scheer's answer, talking about how, you know, we don't have a shortage of cows, but we have a shortage of fish. Why don't we have a shortage of cows when we're killing them at... or killing isn't usually the term we use, but slaughtering them. That's not a better term. Slaughtering them at the same rate.
Killing cows.
Yeah, and he talked about how the demand for the fish needs to be supplemented, and yeah.
Okay. It's funny. It's funny you mentioned Bill Morneau. It's not really haha funny, but you mentioned Bill Morneau, and he was actually here.
Oh,
on Friday.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that Bill Morneau has been here too.
Bill Morneau was here on Friday. I went to that event. Very, very, okay, I don't want to say disappointing, but it was very, really, I guess, expected, you know, politically. He was asked, there was a long question and answer period. Again, I also appreciate that. But he got asked, they were like, you know, what are you doing? You're still on target to hit, you know, Stephen Harper's carbon emission targets. You know, how are you leading the environment in any kind of way? And he gave an answer that I feel like we all knew, but it was just a tough pill to swallow hearing it, because he was like, you know, we're doing this and this and this, and then he was like in the sort of political sphere, you know, I also want to move faster to, you know, eradicate the climate crisis, but there's only so much I can turn without, you know, like while maintaining like the status quo and not being controversial and not, you know, upsetting too many people, and like sort of there's only so much you can do as a politician in terms of this kind of stuff.
That's fair.
And I think that was a fair answer, but I think it was just disappointing hearing it.
I think a lot of the time when you try to get a real answer to a politician, you will be disappointed.
Yeah.
But, you know, a little bit off topic, and if the audience can believe me and my co-panelists here can believe me, I would like to say that I'm trying to eliminate my bias and be impartial here and say, you know, if I were a liberal, if I supported the Liberal Party, I think I would be really disappointed in Bill Morneau and in Chrystia Freeland, the two of them. I don't think they've done a very good job at all. And, you know, even just like not thinking about my bias, not thinking about what they're trying to accomplish and whether I like that or not, but but thinking about what they're trying to accomplish and how good of a job they're doing at accomplishing it. And I you know, O'Leary made a great point about that, saying, you know what, when the Liberals were elected, I wanted Bill Morneau to do a good job because he's in charge of the economy, and he hasn't.
Yeah, no, his fall economic statement was very lackluster.
It really was.
He has one more budget before the election.
It just sounds the same every
because
time.
they get to do the fall 2019 economic statement, and that will be the more controversial one because that's the election year. Same thing that Stephen Harper did with the surplus and with the raising of the tax-free savings account limit. But this was kind of like, all right, here it is. The price of alcohol and tobacco are going up, and here's some money for like the northern grocery store crisis.
Yeah, I think the Liberals, one thing that they always have to worry about is that their electorate is so broad.
Yeah.
And they have to really worry about not alienating any one part of it.
Yeah, no, I was looking at a lot of I was looking at like the history of like the electorate and I looked at Brian Mulroney's election in 1988, I want to say. No, 84. The 1984 election. He won, like there was not one Liberal seat in Ontario.
Yeah.
There was one Reform seat, but there was not one Liberal seat in Ontario. That, for me, is so difficult to imagine because of how stronghold the Liberal Party has in Ontario. And, like, the tides in Canada can switch. Like, BC used to vote Conservative.
It's like public opinion has to change so quickly. You have to do something really stupid till fucking, like, you know, to let that happen.
John Turner coming after Pierre Trudeau was a terrible decision. And that, you know, contributed to why. And then with the rise of the Reform Party. And
I was watching some John Turner versus Mulroney debates.
Terrible. Terrible.
Oh, man. You know what?
Awful.
Bad, terrible debater. And I think Brian Mulroney, despite my distaste for him, was a fantastic debater. But John Turner, the policies he was proposing, I really liked, honestly.
Yeah.
He was very different from most Liberals.
Yeah, he was. He was.
And his kind of tirade he went on against NAFTA, brilliant. Honestly, that's the one good thing I've seen John Turner, you know,
speak up
orate.
Yeah.
Is talking about, you know, giving away our sovereignty to the United States. And I thought it was really good. You should watch it. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, no, and then there was the whole famous, like, you had a choice, sir.
Yes.
You could have said no, you had a choice.
Yeah.
When John Turner was talking about leaving a lot of the Liberal appointments in place. And Brian Mulroney's like, and he says, you know, I had to have left them there. And Brian Mulroney's like, no, you didn't. You could have said no.
That was really good.
Yeah, and I really, really liked that as much as I really hated Brian Mulroney. But... anyways, I
if
digress.
I could switch the conversation, like kind of close back to like the Liberals and stuff, it's something I was just reading today and yesterday.
The Liberals, the grits.
Brampton North's constituency, Raj Gurwal, he just got
Brampton East.
Brampton North?
East, pretty sure.
Oh yeah, North is the person that I worked with before.
Yeah.
Brampton East.
Do you live in Brampton North?
I live in Brampton North, technically. Yeah, I'm right on the edge of there. Okay. Yeah, but it's like...
yeah, Brampton East.
But yeah, the Liberal MP there, Raj Gurwal, he just got, like the RCMP filed an investigation under him because of it. Like, the Liberal government at least is proposing that he has a gambling problem with a gambling addiction, but the RCMP is investigating, I think, millions and millions of dollars of like money that he's touched, like just to see like how far it's gone into the OLG and stuff like that and how much corruption there is. So it's just pretty fucked up. Like right now, it's happening.
Yeah, no, I wish him all the best to resolve that addiction, and I hope the investigation goes well. But I can't help but feel bad for Jagmeet Singh.
Because they're not related, but they're like connected.
Nothing related to those two. But he could have ran in Brampton East instead of having to move to Burnaby South.
Yeah, that's a big move too.
Yeah.
You don't live in Brampton South, Daniel, but I told a guy I met last night that I'd give somebody from Brampton his card. It's Ben Kennedy is running for Brampton South.
All right, cool.
For the, CPC.
Religious
Very
freedoms. Ooh, well, I'm gonna ask him some questions about the sex ed curriculum. There you go. Let's see what it's got to say.
That's federal.
Well,
Either way.
Let's move on to our main topic. Great conversation. You know, politics is always something we talk about here.
Politics is political.
Too late to politic.
I was
I
gonna bring
can't
that
find
up.
that
Yeah.
sweater.
Really?
Yeah.
I,
don't know
I
where
see it every now and then on like a hot topic or something like that.
It's somewhere in my apartment. I have to find it.
It's okay.
Well, then you got to stay on the show till you find it.
Oh boy, yeah. Elliot got me. He absolutely
Bazinga.
bamboozled. He got me.
By the way, guys, I got a new phone so I can actually monitor the
Wow.
comments again.
Mazel
Yay.
tov,
Good for
Simmet
you,
tov,
good
Mazel
for you.
tov.
Yeah, I'm very pleased with this.
Does it have 3G at least or no?
This one has LTE.
Oh!
The old one had
We
3G.
moving up in the system.
Oh!
We out here making his paper.
Yeah, the old
Oh.
one had 3G, and that was really slow. But you know,
Well, you know who doesn't have LTE phones? The Migrant Caravan.
Oh.
So
technically correct.
Yeah, that was an interesting segue, Elliot.
Technically
Well,
correct.
No, I'm pretty sure
Had
those
to
vans have
say-
Wi-Fi or something
had
like
to
that.
had
Come
to
on.
segue. So that's our main topic for today. Thousands of migrants have arrived at the U.S.-Mexico border after traveling more than 4,000 kilometers from Central America. They say they are fleeing persecution, poverty, and violence in their home countries of Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. Many of them say their goal is to settle in the U.S. despite warnings by U.S. officials that anyone found entering the country illegally will face arrest, prosecution, and deportation. What we here at the Raben Report would like to find out is the in-depth truth behind their mission to get to the United States, how the U.S. has responded, and all the other spicy details from this situation. Before we start, remember that we are live on Facebook, so you can comment on our feed to have your thoughts read live on air. For the last time with Adam there, so if you want to talk to Adam, don't attack him, but talk to him. Let's begin. What is the current situation?
Marshall has his mouth open. So
Well, that's actually, I was going to say something else, and then Elliot asked the actual question. So, in regards to the
That's what
actual
I do.
question, what is the current situation? Well, to my knowledge, that, from
sorry.
what I've read over the last couple days, it might be slightly outdated, is that the caravan is largely, it's a big caravan, so it's not all in the same place
It's like
necessarily.
thousands of people.
But it's very
Yeah.
large, and it's in Tijuana, or maybe just north of Tijuana, which I guess would be...
No, because then you'd be in San
yeah.
Diego.
Yeah.
So it's just south of there. Yeah.
And for a lot of people, it's not like a physical caravan. It's just people.
It's just a bunch of people
group
walking,
people,
yeah.
Tijuana is the border town, I believe.
Well,
Yeah,
then
it
there's
is.
Mexicali, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah.
Which I've
So
been
they
to,
hit
actually.
Tijuana a few days ago. So I feel like we read the same thing.
And what's interesting is Mexicali, and this is just anecdotal, but I've been there, is you go to Mexicali, you step 1 foot into Mexico and 1 foot into California, and there's no, border in sight. And it's really kind of interesting to see that in certain areas it's so heavily fortified, and in certain areas
There's
it's just, there's nothing.
There's even two walls. That's the thing. Like in the major areas where all the coyotes or whatever they want to call them, it's like they have to first like they somehow use some sort of welding material or something like that to break down the metal part there. And then the new wall that they've actually been constructing, which I think almost like $3 billion worth.
Senate Democrats
Yeah.
approved that wall.
Yeah, but I think there's like at least $3 billion have been spent on the wall already, and these new walls that they have that the Border Patrol focuses on, they're like small little like they have like this much of width between each bar, so they're just small
Yeah.
enough like
People squeeze through, yeah.
Some people can squeeze through, but like
That's crazy.
so it's like only like
I think
Is-
it's just
Is
ridiculous.
coyote a Spanish word? Does that come
It's
from
coyote,
Spanish?
coyote, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
like the word comes
that's
from
the-
Spanish originally?
I
what I'm asking.
believe it does have Latin origin.
Okay.
I believe so. Yeah. If not, it's some French thing or something.
So, for people who might be confused who are watching when we're talking about the wall, like the existing wall, a lot of people don't realize that, Trump talks a lot about a wall, right? And we all know this. But a lot of people don't realize that there is already a wall to a degree.
It's just not at the
Well,
same scale
and
that he's proposing.
It's because it's all been built at different periods of time.
Yeah.
Some was built under Clinton, some was built under George H.W. Bush, some was built under George W. Bush, some under Obama too. It's very inconsistent, and what it is about 1/3 of the border is walled or
fortified.
They figure out just the crucial areas and stuff like that, because anywhere else that's like outside of the urban areas, they're not only susceptible to like nature, just because like there's actual coyotes and it's Mexico, it's a dangerous place.
And when we talk about coyotes, it's a desert. Why don't you clarify the difference between coyotes and
okay, so the coyotes like are the animal, obviously, like, I don't know,
a dog,
yeah, whatever, but like the actual Mexican term for un coyote is someone who is like an illegal smuggler of Mexican and Central American people to the border and stuff like that. They pay them exorbitant amount of money. On top of that, like they've been known from FBI reports and from other federally mandated reports that I think it's like 40 up to 60% of the women that get escorted by them get sexually assaulted by them. Don't quote me on how high the number is, but
I believe
the point
60
is
was the number. Yeah.
The point is it's a shit ton and too much.
They're not good people.
They're not good people.
1% is too much.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go, exactly. Boom, that's a good thing. That's a good fucking quote right there.
And the coyotes, what they often do is, and when we say coyotes in the context of this episode, we're just talking about the smugglers.
We're not going to talk about the animals. There's no point.
So
the Raben Report is now a wildlife show.
What the coyotes often do is set the illegal immigrants up with a new life, and a lot of the time that's a big part of the problem, is because it's very exploitative in the way that they set them up with a new life. Is they might set them up in a, I don't know, they don't grow opium in the, I was about to say opium field, but like let's say like some sort of drug production facility.
But you know, I just was reading something kind of credible from Vox in a while, and they were saying how like poppy has now been like their production from poppy in the Mexican fields has increased like 300% over the last 3 years and stuff like that.
That can also be attributed to the production slowing down in Afghanistan.
Yeah, exactly. But that's
a big part of it.
Yeah, so that's like the one thing that they also mentioned too.
Yeah.
But yeah, these coyotes, like they not necessarily set them up for failure, but they set them up in shitty conditions. Like their main goal is just get them over the border.
Yeah, they're smugglers.
Yeah, once they're done with that, like they maybe set up like a midway house where they can go meet up with their old family that's already there potentially.
And they have links to organized crime all the time.
Exactly, that's the problem. That's the problem. Some of these women, they're forcibly carried to like smuggle drugs in or something like that. So let's say a border patrol were to stop her and the coyote's long gone.
Then the coyote doesn't get in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what happens a lot of the time. Is the coyotes
take advantage of single pregnant women or women that have so many mouths to feed that they need to go to the U.S. to go get a decent job to pay for their quality of life, and on top of that to send it back home to their family. Like that's the main thing too. Like people don't understand how much like the Latino people care about sending money back home and stuff like that. They don't give a shit if like their quality of life is lessered here in Canada. They'll still do it just because they feel it's a requirement, which I don't necessarily agree with, but it's whatever.
Well, let's talk about the response from the U.S. Let's start in particular with Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez.
What is this? Not with you, but there's a general obsession with Ocasio-Cortez.
Well, because she said something.
It's because she's a beautiful woman with an intelligent mind. But she doesn't know what she's talking about.
I think there's a lot of reasons why there's an obsession.
Let me just say what she said, which is that she compared these migrants to Jews fleeing Germany.
Yeah.
Would you say that is a fair comparison or completely ludicrous?
Absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah.
You know what? There are lots of people who do flee bad circumstances, and of course, the Jews fleeing, Nazi Germany were a group fleeing bad circumstances, terrible circumstances. But the Jews fleeing Germany were fleeing the systematic elimination. The goal was to get rid of them completely from their own government. That is in a league of its own compared to what's going on in Central and South America and Mexico. Mexico is not Central America. A lot of people think it is, but they don't like to be.
Thank you, Marshall. I appreciate that. You're woke as fuck on this aspect.
And I'm not trying to say that the situation isn't bad there, but it is a completely different situation fleeing a country that's not doing well, a country that's doing very poorly and that there's violence in the country, to fleeing a situation where your people are being systematically eliminated, just slaughtered en masse because of just simply by virtue of their ethnicity. And
can I disagree with him on this aspect? Because there's the power of like the imminent danger that happens between an institutional power that has so much control over marginalized people like the Jews in Nazi Germany, and in comparison to like it's not necessarily institutional power, but the Las Maras, all the cartels, all of these cartels from Central and South America, they have so much power. All of their money is funneled into the police organizations, funneled into these institutions. Like all of these people, I guarantee you, like they're paying not necessarily Supreme Court judges, but any judges that they can find at the highest level when they become arrested and prosecuted. That way, they get a minimum sentence time. That's why and stuff like that. So like the power that the cartels have is almost as high as the power that the institutional powers had in Nazi Germany. That's what my claim will be, at least. Yeah. Because like every time like I talk to someone who's like fleed from a particular reason, and like I ask them how bad it was, you genuinely like most of the time what they tell me, like I'm not gonna say anything as like confidentiality, but it's just really fucked up at what happened and stuff like that. It's not to the same degree as institutional oppression of the Jews, but like it's pretty damn close and stuff like that. Like you have to fear for your life and stuff like that. I know for a fact a large majority of these migrant caravans of these people, they're claiming asylum because of LGBTQ plus discrimination and stuff like that. I think that's important because like let's face it, these countries, they have conservative traditional viewpoints, and they're not going to be accepting as left-leaning countries like the U.S. and Canada. Yeah. So it's like, well, I don't know, man. It's pretty close. It's pretty close.
Let's get Adam's take on it, because I know you're completely on the other side of that.
Yeah, the issue that I have, and I appreciate both Marshall and Daniel's comments, but that's not what I was going to say.
Said enough.
No, I think there is a lot of context that you missed there, Elliot. You know, Ocasio-Cortez.
I'm literally just referring to a tweet.
Yeah, no, but in the tweet, Ocasio-Cortez compares it to refugees fleeing Syria, and from what I understood reading that tweet, I saw it yesterday. Oh yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. So from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, asking to be considered a refugee and applying for status isn't a crime. It wasn't for Jewish families fleeing Germany. It wasn't for targeted families fleeing Rwanda. It wasn't for communities fleeing war-torn Syria. And it isn't for those fleeing violence in South America.
Yeah, I think that in your sort of understanding of the context is wrong, because it's about the idea of applying for asylum, not comparing a Central American refugee to a Jewish refugee, both fleeing their conditions. It's the sheer idea of applying for asylum, which is pretty standard across the board. The conditions aren't really relevant in this case.
I agree with you there, actually.
Yeah,
like it doesn't matter if it was Nazi Germany.
Yeah, if it was Nazi Germany, Rwanda, Kosovo, where else?
If we were going to say like Lenin,
but then is it fair to paint like a broad brush no matter the issue? Like for example,
but she didn't really paint a broad brush.
She gave multiple examples as well. Yeah. Now that I've actually listened to what the actual tweet was,
having seen the actual tweet, I don't think it was that unreasonable of her to say.
And I think that people like to pick on her. Honestly,
that's true.
I think that people like to pick on her.
She's inexperienced. She doesn't know what she's talking about.
I think people pick on her way too much. Honestly,
like Fox News is obsessed with how she dresses. If she dresses too high or dresses too low, like she wore an expensive coat, and they were like, "How can she? Whatever.
Silly,
how can she afford this and pay the coat?" And then she did on Instagram Live in sweatpants, and they were like, "Oh, this is your congresswoman in sweatpants," and I'm like, "Leave her alone."
This is her very first time entering government.
She's a rookie congressman.
Picking on her for not being able to afford an apartment in D.C. Do you guys see about?
Yeah. She has to wait for her salary to kick in to afford her apartment in D.C.
I think some of the people criticizing her for that had a point to a degree, because she saw that expense coming. She should have seen that expense coming. But at the same time, it's not something that...
If you can't afford it, you can't afford it, no matter whether or not you see it coming.
Yeah, and so it's not something that should have any effect on her credibility or something that should
But I do
delegitimize her at all.
think she does... I wouldn't call it childish, but she definitely has an extremely idealistic perspective on how to change things and stuff like that, which is actually very uplifting. She doesn't have the idea, like her mind, like the way I see her, she's not necessarily like the career politician or like your NPC, and stuff like that.
she beat a 10-term incumbent representative.
She wants to be someone important, and I think that's gonna take like not even just these 2 years for her as a congresswoman, but like it's gonna take like at least another 10 years of like really shaping her and developing her character and her and the content of her character to be a serious candidate for the Democratic Party in the future.
She's a democratic socialist, an unapologetic democratic socialist. She's a progressive. But
she's so inexperienced. She doesn't know what she's talking about.
My favorite Democrats is the more socialist wing of the Democrats. And no,
I don't know
like
if you're being sarcastic.
No, I'm actually not. Like Bernie Sanders is one of my favorites of all the Democrats, and you know, I can't really name any others, to be honest. Like
Elizabeth Warren.
Well, she's not like
progressive.
She's not like that. Same
so we
way.
don't count her as Native American. Then
I'd say.
We don't count her as indigenous.
But
don't even get into that.
So when it comes to Alexandria or just Ocasio-Cortez, that's it, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to her, there are plenty of things to criticize her for that are legitimate. I think so many of the things that she gets criticized for are such superficial,
it's an obsession.
There's a couple of times where she's took some massive L's.
They're upset.
Her accusing Ben Shapiro of catcalling her, that was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen somebody say.
I haven't seen that, so I wouldn't know.
So essentially, Ben Shapiro kept talking about how he wanted to debate her.
Yeah.
And she never responded, and eventually Shapiro made a tweet about how she's not responding because she knows that she'll lose in the debate. And the tweet got really popular, and she responded with, "Well, just like how I don't respond to catcalls, I don't respond to men who think they're entitled to my time or something like that." Let's see if I can find the actual tweet.
But is that really comparing him to catcalling? I think it was just kind of like being like, I don't respond to catcalls, I don't respond to this either.
What she's comparing apples to oranges though in that particular.
Let me make sure
I think the distinction between the apples and oranges is pretty evident. I don't think. If people assume that Ben Shapiro is catcalling her, I think they don't understand what catcalling is.
I think they just wanted to find an excuse to stir up some political drama.
No, but they like to push her buttons. But and she's not even like.
But she's taking some massive L's too, because like I think one time she was like talking we need to like control all three branches of government. And she's like the presidency, the executive, and like she like
I
some
know
other
what you're
thing.
talking
I'm
about.
I'm like, you just read a couple books. Like it's not that hard. But
she slipped up in with the jurisdiction that Congress has.
Yeah, but I don't think that should disqualify her from being a respectable candidate.
You want to talk about
future.
Understanding of the law? Look at Donald Trump. He doesn't know that like the hurricane was wet. Like that thing really came out of that man's mouth. Sweep the floor of the forest. Did anybody catch that? In the California wildfires, we have to protect the floor of the forest.
Okay, I have the tweet here. So she said, "Just like catcalling, I don't owe a response to unsolicited requests from men with bad intentions. And also like catcalling, for some reason they feel entitled to one." I think it's a really silly tweet. I'm not saying that like she was accusing Ben of catcalling, but it was a really silly thing to say. Men with bad intentions, like that sounds like it's got some more serious implications than just asking to debate.
I think she just wanted to shut him down, and I think she did a pretty good job, because I don't think he came after her after that.
Well, he did, because he had a really funny tweet about, which I can't keep looking for tweets, but it was something like, how construction workers in Queens are asking random women on the street for debates now, and I like that one.
Well, then let's move on from
You want to talk about gender theory? Like some bullshit.
So then let's move on from that woman to a different person who Whoopi likes to call the man in the White House. Whoopi Goldberg, I'm talking about. How has the U.S. response been to this whole situation?
I think it's been a lot of...
Sorry, whose response to it?
DJT's.
Donald Trump.
Oh, okay.
Donald J. Trump.
DJT?
Yeah, Donald J. Trump.
Oh, I didn't know you call him that.
Donald John Trump, DJT.
So we got DJT and JT.
Yeah, pretty much.
DJ.
DJ Esco.
DJT on the decks.
Oh, God. Anyway.
Not only are we a nature show, we have a DJ section.
So I think that Trump used the caravan when it was 2 weeks away during the midterms to, send U.S. troops to the border. They just kind of sat there and they were hot, and they didn't really do all that much.
That's scary, like the fact that he sent troops,
and then when the caravan actually arrived to the border, he responded with tear gas to children, and I think that it's a war crime. I'm gonna call it what it is. It's a war crime.
Hot take.
Firing, tear gas and in that sense, live fire at young children and people is a war crime. I think that I'm so numb to the way this administration has treated, asylum seekers and refugee status claimants that they've forgotten what the real process of refugees and asylum seekers have to go to. The process of applying for asylum is arriving to the country that you want to apply for asylum for and declaring that you want to apply for asylum.
Like as soon as you touch the border,
yeah,
right?
And in that sense, you have to get to the border to apply for asylum. And Donald Trump firing tear gas and sending troops and arming the border and, asking their states, the border states to send the National Guard is trying to stop them before they get to the border to apply for asylum. But what they're branding them as, evil job takers, unable to conform to our society, just illegals, aliens, and I think this is so much of the rhetoric.
Specifically, it's like the dehumanization.
Yeah, it's the dehumanization, and it's so much of the rhetoric of the Trump administration that I'm so numb to that this is happening. And I think that, you have like the like-minded and Republicans left in America with common sense, like Meghan McCain and Laura Bush coming out against this. And everybody's like, oh, thank God, voice of reason within the party. They're not part of the party at this point anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that it's such a problem, and nothing is going to be done because the Trump administration has complete control.
So when it comes to the tear gas, there were many people trying to breach the barrier, and
that's what you need to do to apply for asylum.
Well, you don't breach a barrier.
If the barrier is there, that's what you have to do.
Well, there are people who apply for asylum without having to, illegally breach a border, right?
But what are they going to do? They're just going to put their hands on the fence, be like, "Grant me asylum."
If they've closed the border crossings like they have, there is no other way to apply for asylum.
But you're not able to just fill out the forms and
there's no forms to get because no one is offering the forms. There's no
They don't actually want to give them asylum.
There's no civil way to get to the border when the armed guard is at the border.
No, but I mean, there's no legal way to apply for asylum.
But that is applying for asylum. Getting to the border and declaring that you...
All the Haitians and other marginalized groups that came in from the American border here to Canada, they didn't even have the VHS 101 form, whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah.
To get asylum. They just came in there and they were resisted.
And they were arrested.
Yeah, they just put their hands back.
Yeah, they were arrested, and then they were arrested nicely, and then their asylum claim was processed.
But Trump's not going to get all the Border Patrol people to come out of the U.S. border and arrest them on American soil to bring them into the country.
No, because he doesn't want them there. That's
exactly.
The
He's preventing
he's preventing the international law of asylum seekers seeking asylum.
So when you get to the border, you start to protest immediately and start climbing over the fence immediately. That's just not the process. Who knows what the process could have been, how much more peaceful it could have been if protests didn't immediately begin, if scrambling over the fences and between the barriers didn't immediately begin. I don't have a problem with the people coming over in the caravan. I have a problem with lack of respect for the fact that you're trying to get a country to welcome you in, and right off the bat you're trying to force your way in by skirting convention.
Before you guys, can someone just answer the one question? Is there no legal way to apply for asylum in the U.S.?
There is. There's two ways. There's two main ways. The first usual way is to go to the U.S. consulate or U.S. embassy in your home country.
Yeah.
That's not always an option, and we all know that.
Because if not, they'd have thousands of people just at the American embassy.
That's
City.
the best way to do it, and that's how you should do it. But if you can't do it, I understand that that's not an option. The other way is to go to the border, and that's how a lot of people do it. And you have to make a civil effort of it to get in. And
isn't that what happened with the Syrian refugees? They went up to Turkey and stuff like that to get asylum.
And so the other option is, of course, do it in Mexico, U.S. Embassy in Mexico, and there are plenty of U.S. consulates in Mexico as well. And you also, if none of that is an option, then you can do it at the border, and you have to line up in an orderly fashion. And I understand that can be tough with thousands of people. And at the end of the day, that's why it might not be a good idea to join this caravan of people who doesn't seem to have intentions of following convention, following the laws to get in.
I just don't trust the Trump administration that if they were to act civil, he would respond with
civility.
Civil.
Well, at that point, it's the government is and the military and the immigration officers there are held to account when they behave in a way that's not in accordance with human rights.
But if the way that this situation is going to continue to escalate, then it's going to be like shots fired from the U.S. military because they're going to see some sort of criminal activity going on or something like that. Or they're going to assume some sort of criminal activity. It's like...
The military won't be firing any shots. The military is not... That's not the military's job.
Then Border Patrol, like, what's going to happen like when the situation gets so, like...
they fire tear gas already.
Yeah. Like, if they think the situation's that grave, they have to use tear gas. How far does it have to go for someone?
Yeah.
They're using tear gas as a crowd
riot
control method because there are currently riots going on right there, and
what's going to happen though? They're going to shoot them with like rubber bullets, or like what they...
Maybe. I don't want anybody to get shot with actual bullets, and I really pray to God that doesn't happen.
It's just a scary situation.
A 2-year-old cannot withstand tear gas as crowd control measures.
Absolutely. And it's honestly, I feel like it's on the people bringing their children into that kind of environment. Like, you can't... That's irresponsible as a parent to bring your child into that kind of situation.
I don't know about that.
You don't bring your child to...
I don't think they were expected to be met with tear gas.
Well, they have to expect to be met with some resistance when you're trying to illegally get into a country. Like, you can't do that. That's not how it works. They were met with plenty of resistance in Mexico.
I don't know.
Resistance and tear gas is different. In Tijuana, there were protests to like go home.
Yeah,
but nobody fired tear gas.
Sure, and if there's a way to do it without firing tear gas, then that's the way that I would like to see it done. But
it's also like a product of like just like the lack of accountability from the government and stuff, or the lack of effectiveness from the government or something like that. Because like if the Mexican government has already started deporting people back to their home countries of like Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, and whatever and stuff, like it's like the Mexican government let this happen, unfortunately, and stuff like that. They're a weak sovereign, and like I think Adam, you said it before though.
State.
Thank
Mexico's
you. Yeah, I remember that. So it's like if they can't even control the organized crime that's already has it's such a tight grip on the Mexican institutions. Like how are they gonna like respond and try to protect all of these people that are just flooding into their country? They're not. What are they gonna do then? Except instead of the problem being at the U.S. border, it's just gonna be at the U.S. Guatemalan border instead. You're not changing the problem there. All you're doing is just relocating the problem somewhere else.
Sure. And so what I'll address is Sarah has a comment. But how are you going to leave your child behind? And what I would say to that is if you have children, you have to consider the fact that bringing them to a situation in which you are going to go break the law and riot, you are putting your child at risk. In that situation, you have to think about the welfare of your child and be careful and go the slow route. Go to the embassy. Go to the consulate. Go to any one of the number of consulates that exist along the way. But it's also a
lack of education from these caravan people. The people are in the caravan and stuff like that. They think it's that easy just to apply or something like that.
I don't think they think it's that easy.
No, the amount of stories I can hear...
I don't know. I just think that if you travel 4,000 kilometers to do something, nothing about that is easy at all.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
You know, they have collapsed from fatigue, from hunger, from being tired. Like, this isn't.
But
something.
Even this caravan.
It's not like la di da di da marching up to the border. Hello, asylum, and then it's like they enter. That's not how
like
things
a video
work.
game, pretty much. But it's like, but like,
press triangle to get asylum.
Like an example, like. Yeah, how many? Do you know how many people it is that have actually moved? I just say thousands, but
thousands.
Yeah, it's thousands.
Can we just half a dozen?
Half a dozen thousand, so 6,000.
Somewhere around that.
Let's just use
half a dozen. I don't mean 6,000. I mean
let's just use half a dozen as their number.
Never heard that.
It's like even if we're just like we're only covering a small percentage of actual illegal immigration that happens into the country. This is a percentage of people that actually get in because no one even realizes, like, regardless if you think that the border wall is a good idea, most of these people are not coming into the country illegally. They're coming into legally, and then they're overstaying their visas, and or they're literally here as a student, and after they graduate, they just stay. They just like fuck it. Why would I want to go back to
but then they've got DACA for that if they come for school.
And
but even that's being rescinded. Even that's an attack.
They're trying to get
so it's like,
that. You know,
I don't know.
But on that note,
like not everyone is a migrant caravan, is what I'm trying to say.
Have got to move on to our probably our most important subject of this episode. Obviously, this is a very heated topic, but you know what? We might cover it again, and you never know. Adam might come back as a little special guest there. But now it's time to talk about goodbye, Adam. So you got, I'll give you 4 or 5 minutes before we completely wrap up. Go ahead.
You know, I responded. I've talked about my origin story several times, but you know, Elliot put out a message in the Ryerson Politics group, and they were like, "Why are you laughing?"
I'm just picturing like all those superhero movies when like 6 years after the movie they release an origin story.
Yeah, no, this is my origin story. 2 years after the show started.
Adam, Origins, coming summer 2019.
And, you know, Elliot was like, you know, I'm looking for an NDP panelist, and I was looking to get involved in school, and, you know, my political views were getting refined. I respond to Elliot. I get in a group chat with this guy named Marshall Derbyshire and another guy, and then the other guy dropped out, and then Marshall's like, oh, I've got a friend. His name's Hugo. He could be, you know, our liberal guy. And we were like, okay, cool. And then I meet, you know, Hugo Daniel Hernandez, and I'm like, oh, these look like some weird guys, but okay, I'm with it. You know, and then things just sort of got rolling, and it was a very weird thing for me to, one, imagine that this kind of thing existed at Ryerson, and two, just to imagine that people would watch. I didn't understand that people would actually watch our show. I was like, oh, we're all kind of, you know, 4 weird dudes in a room. Like, why would anybody feel motivated in any kind of way?
Sounds like a Chuck Lorre production.
Yeah. Wait, who's that again? I know that
2.5 Men.
2.5 Men. And The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. Don't talk to me about The Big Bang Theory.
2.5 Men was all right.
Yeah. Man. You know, for me, you know, being a part of this, I think that, you know, on one hand, I hated conservatives before I met you, Marshall. I've told you that.
Stop.
No, I really did. You know, I still do disagree with a lot of conservatives, and I still don't like a lot of conservatives, but
that's okay. I don't like a lot of them either.
For so long, I was one of those people that would just shut them out from the get-go of hearing the word that they're conservative. But to actually meet you being a nice person, I was like, they're not so bad. Daniel, you know, I knew of you. I knew both of you through like our friends in passing.
Because like were you in the same year?
I was in
politics.
Right? I was in politics.
And then you just came out of nowhere. It's like, yeah, I'm in history. I'm like,
bro.
Like,
I switched. I did switch.
Yeah.
And then I got to know you, and I really appreciate our friendship as well. And then Elliot, I didn't know you existed.
Hi.
You know, I think that I didn't think, you know. It's been so interesting to watch, you know, you as a first year kind of shape, one, your own political views, and two, shape how you've run the show and how things have gotten better. You know, I was telling Elliot this last week, but you know, if any of you would like to go and watch the earlier episodes of the Raben Report, you can watch Elliot and how he presses the switching buttons, and he's like boom, 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 and he's like, you know, focused, and he's like agile, almost like, you know, an animal stalking their prey, and now he just does it so fluidly, and you know, everything has gotten, you know, so great. And I think that, you know, I'm talking this way, and you're all imagining why am I leaving, and I think it's just the fact that, you know, as I've become more refined in my own political views, and I've become much more, you know, left wing, I find it very difficult to feel as if though that my opinions are having any kind of change of any kind. And that might be a little bit of a selfish thing, not to see out my to only want to be a part of something if I think I have some kind of impact. But I think that I've felt my own opinions sort of turn into, you know, something appreciated by our viewers, you know, as, you know, a perspective that can be seen, not necessarily agreeing with, but a perspective that can be viewed, to sort of just being shit on by my very good friend Samuel Sedegat and others. You know, I appreciate Sam for, you know, just shitting on me because he can't form a cohesive opinion against me. And, you know,
I mean, like you're spitting some fire right there right now.
Go.
I can't you know, I appreciate that. And you know, I think that it's just time for me to move on a little bit and to take my opinions and refine them more in myself, because I think that I'm struggling a little bit here to be the progressive voice in the room. in all of the opinions that I have. And I think that it was never a result of Sam and others or any of you. I just think that between me and myself, maybe try something else. Never any hard feelings. Being part of a show that, where we were viewed in over 50 countries, thousands of times, guests from all over Canada came to visit. And, also in my own personal thing, my dad really likes this show. And I think that, my dad really liking this show and really liking what I have to say and really liking what all of you have to say made me very proud to be part of this, because my dad doesn't like a whole lot of things. And my dad, he's been busy at work recently, but he used to watch this show religiously. Like, he'd put it into his schedule at work to just be like, leave me alone for an hour. I got to watch my son do his thing. And I think that that was really, really important for me to get my dad to be like, good job. And I think that I'm going to miss it.
Yeah,
that's really nice.
Yeah.
You should definitely be proud of everything you said.
And I think that we all should be proud of what we've accomplished. I don't think any of us imagined this to happen. Our biggest competition is our good friends over at Baywatch. And for 4 dudes in a room to match up with, 3 people talking about their personal lives and relationships and much more, I guess, appealing topics of discussion is just absurd. And it's been fun, guys.
Yeah, and you know what, Adam? We're all very proud. I'm sorry, it's 12.
Yeah, it is. But
we're all very happy to have you here and sad to see you
there's
go.
not much else to say, but we're going to love you and miss you, man.
It's the show obviously wouldn't have been what it is without you. It's sad to see you go. Hopefully we'll see you on sometimes as a special guest.
This isn't goodbye forever. Forever is just a long time for old people, as Charlie's grandpa in the Willie in the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory said.
But at the same time, obviously that means that we do have a spot open on the Raben Report come hopefully season 6. So if you are interested in being the NDP-minded viewpoint of the show, definitely message us and we'll see if we can do that. Obviously nobody will be able to replace Adam, but life goes on, sadly.
That's sweet. Thank you.
That was our show for this week. That was our final episode for the season, season 5. That means, of course, this was Adam's last show with the Raben Report. Thank you, Adam.
It's been fun. I digress.
Thank you, Adam, for being a part of the show for the past 5 seasons. And thank you to everyone that tuned in and that messaged us live throughout our span. We will hopefully be back in January with season 6 of the Raben Report, but no confirmation yet, so you'll just have to stay tuned. From all of us, thank you and have a great day, everyone.